All right, so let's tackle some confusion. Clean energy, green energy, renewable energy, energy. So very simple terms, clean energy doesn't produce carbon emissions. Green energy are producing energy through sources of nature. And then renewable energy, the sources don't expire, they renew. What does it actually mean, what this entails, and what the intricacies are? So clean energy is used to describe when the energy sources don't produce carbon emissions and other pollutants, right? When it's used. It refers to forms of energy that environmentally friendly and one would suspect sustainable. But hold on, because nuclear is an example of clean energy because it doesn't emit greenhouse gases during the electricity generation, while it does have its own set of challenges and concerns, like waste disposal and safety. And, you know, for me, one of the concerns when we think about sustainability is the ability to sustainability. So nuclear specifically, it requires a continuous increase of nuclear waste storage facilities. So that it doesn't have the ability to sustain over time. All right, clean energy. Now, green energy, and on the other hand, it refers to energy derived from natural sources. Sort of encompasses a much broader range of energy sources, also including renewable. So green energy can include renewable sources like solar, wind, hydroelectric, geo, stuff like that, biomass actually, as well as non-renewable like natural gas. And natural gas is considered cleaner than other fossil fuels. Now, the emphasis in green often attempts to reflect a focus on environmental sustainability instead of the reduction of reliance on fossils. But as you can see, natural gas, well, it brings a whole heap of concern. Now, the third part, so we covered clean energy, green energy, and then the last, which we hear a lot, is renewable energy. So renewable energy is there for energy sources that are naturally replenished. It renews. And it will not deplete over time. So these resources are infinite or replenished at a rate that exceeds the consumption. Solar, for example, we think of it as the key, for some reason, item to look at. It relies on the rays of sunshine and is constantly available. Depends of the time of year and the hours of sunlight. It doesn't necessarily run out in a few hundred years or million years. Similarly, wind also uses the concept of renewables because what it does is uses the movement of air currents, which is abundant resource in certain areas in the world, or depends of the position, is a better place to harvest the energy of the wind. And other examples of renewals are hydroelectric, so generated from water, or geo, from geothermal, which is from the heat of the core of the earth. And then biomass, which is organic matter like crops or wood. Again, biomass has its own intricacies on definition, where the sources is, it's a byproduct, and how that's handled. But at its core, well, renewable is this idea of renew faster than the consumption. And it's constant, it will always be there through our lifetime and beyond. And these sources are often, well, sustainable, sort of like a long-term solution to meet energy needs. So whilst clean energy, green energy, renewable energy, they sort of share the common objective, so similar narratives with the aim of reducing pollution and environmental impact. There may be some overlaps in between the concepts. Many renewable energy sources like solar and wind are both clean and green. And this idea of being environmentally friendly, because they do not produce carbon emission during the operation. And what it does is harness natural sources of power. However, not all the clean energy are renewable. And again, nuclear, as mentioned earlier, is considered clean, but it's not renewable, especially also relies on uranium, which is a finite resource. So having the clarity to differentiate beyond all the noise through these concepts is going to help us to understand the different aspects, what you may choose, what you may hear in terms of policies and different politics narrative, and also the technologies involved are different. And sort of, for me, it remarks the key fact that we need to move to a cleaner, we need to transition to a cleaner energy way. So if you are thinking to enhance the energy sources for either commercial spaces or for your own private area or as a community effort, think about renewables, and also think about the ability to create a resilient system. So if we think of how nature builds resilience, it mainly does it by three things. One is variation, another one is redundancy, and the third one is decentralization. So with these three different strategies, what can you do? So look in your context, what are the different potential natural energy sources that you could harvest coming through the place that you are at. Certainly create a variation, don't only feed through one source, because maybe one day is not windy, or one day you don't have good sun, or whatever it is. So create something that is varied, generate redundancy for whatever else. If one line goes down, you can continue operating. And then decentralize. How can you continue using the energy regardless of what's happening with the main grid? And battery power doesn't necessarily have to be the answer to it. But again, look at your context and harvest the nature power. That would be my advice. And I hope I clarify all these muddly different jargon concepts of clean energy, green energy, renewable energy, and some sort of tricky connotations of what some of them actually entails, and further research on certain areas if you're interested. When you're considering to expand how you source the energy, there is one more thing to keep in mind. So it's not only about having a varied, redundant, and decentralized system, but also where is that placed? And we have to stop taking more land. So look at how can be embedded into the existing fabric of the place. So for example, you see the usage of roofs, hard roofs with solar, for example. There are also other materials of solar, not the photovoltaic, often sort of commercial available items. So shop out there, because there are other materials that are much more benign in terms of the materials that it uses. So they don't rely on fossil fuels materials. But also, if we think about infrastructure, we have, for example, the rail tracks. So there are organizations that are already looking at how to enhance some of the current infrastructure to also harvest renewable energy. So think about what is already in place and how can you embed it into the existing fabric. And we talk about solar, but also think about wind. So one of the current infrastructure that they are, those sort of electrical towers, there is the concept and the technology available to incorporate wind turbines within. They look different and they sound different. So it already incorporates into the existing infrastructure. There is no need to further destroy and take over more land. So look at the options and just go into whatever is commercially a staple way of going forward, because you can do things and do less harm. Hope it helps. Let me know how it goes.